Are you the widow Pichon?
What do you think? I told him, the governor's men, God bless him, that I dare not touch his room. I has not touched it, not before or after. So like they said to me, right, I didn't do nothing. Not nothing, I ain't done nothing.
Do not fear. We have just come to ask you a few questions. What did you think of him?
Nice. He was very nice, he was very knowledgeable. He told me lots of lovely things. I likes to listen to him, but I tells him that he spoke too much. One day, he didn't come back, and I heard he'd been arrested. I was real sad, because he weren't too clever to mix up all them religious stories, but he was the kindest man he was. Oh yes, bless him.
Did your tenant sometimes have guests? And did he speak to you about messengers?
Never had no one, no. And messengers? Messengers of what?
Messengers. In Greek, they're called angelos, aren't they? Hayat's messengers were angels. The tidings brought to Mary, one of the most moving scenes in the second of the religions of the book. Gabriel, seizing Abraham's arm at the moment of Isaac's sacrifice, the ancestor of the Hebrews without whom Christianity and Islam would never have appeared. The angel Gabriel prepares the mortal body of the prophet, of the last revealed religion, for its nocturnal journey to the heavens of Allah.
There was a trap behind the first messenger, and there is another one here.
It is a clever idea, but the nozzle of the bellows is too large.
Could you make me a very thin nozzle for these bellows?
My last born could do that for you. Wait here. There you go.
How much do I owe you?
Nothing, brother. It was not a difficult job, and I like helping people in need.
That is a rare and chivalrous attitude. What is your name?
Chivalrous. I like that word. My name is Ibn Anur, at your service.
I shall not forget it. Do you know what is in this chest?
I see. Think I go through people's things, do you? Well, I don't see. I leave people alone with their bits and bobs.
A sajda, the prayer mat used by Muslims. It is a talit, a ritual prayer shawl of the Jewish liturgy, I believe. The cross, the instrument of the Passion of Christ.
Two things are confusing me, Ozdemir. The first is how a man as poor as Hayat can have objects of such value in his possession. This chest contains some real treasures.
Hayat seems more interested in spiritual riches than material objects, but what is your other source of confusion?
It is more serious. All the traps that gave out the keys were deadly. Up to now, Hayat has always been devious with us, but never dangerous.
You are forgetting that he kidnapped Haikma. Some would say that is quite dangerous behavior. Nevertheless, it is true that we should be doubly careful from now on. Do you understand what I am talking about?
Yes, the trap in the box room must have been set only recently. Hayat could not have filled the oil lamp from his cell, so either he has an accomplice, or
someone is manipulating him and using this treasure hunt for their own means.
To follow the tracks that we have just discovered, I think I shall have to make use of some of my contacts. Could you spare a few minutes, Father?
I am listening, Adrian.
I found this object at Hayat's house.
A magnificent crucifix. But I doubt it could help you find Hayat.
I do not think it will help me find him, but perhaps it can tell me more about him. You told me that Hayat often came to see you. What about?
He was very curious about the history of the church. He already knew a lot about the subject, however, but he always wanted to know more and expressed some strange opinions about it, too.
What did he want to know, specifically?
What language the Gospels were written in, and when the Christian religion became the only religion of the West.
Who was Bar Kokhbas?
Between 132 and 135 AD, the Jews yet again battled with Rome. Bar Kokhbas was the leader of the rebellion. He took refuge in his fortress at Betar with his men, but was defeated by the Emperor Hadrian. After that final revolt, Jerusalem was forbidden to all Jews and became a pagan city named Aelia Capitolina.
Can you tell me what this object is for?
What a magnificent tallit! It is a shawl that we use for morning and evening prayers. I have never seen one as splendid as this, and the phrase written on it is truly beautiful.
Do you know where I can find Colonimus?
My master went to pray at the Wailing Wall. You can go and find him there, if you wish.
I do not see any writing on this shawl, Isaac.
Oh, but it is there, believe me, and it thus respects tradition. Look at the tzitzits, the fringes around the shawl. Do you see these couples of knots separating the spaces?
Yes, threads run through each one.
If you count the number of turns the threads make, you will see that each one is different. That is because they indicate the order of the letters of our alphabet. The phrase I was telling you about is not written with symbols, but with numbers. But for us, because we follow the tradition that God taught Adam in the Garden of Eden, it is the same. We read numbers as well as we can add words.
Yes, a man in a garden already explained a little of that to me. He even gave me a parchment that shows a few examples. Perhaps I could use it to decipher what is written on the talit.
Yes, but it would be easier to just ask me what is written on these tzitzits, as I already know.
You are right, so tell me.
It is simply an affirmation of the oneness of God. God is one. In numbers, that equals 39. Associating numbers with letters is known as gematry, and it is one of the aspects of the Kabbalah.
The Kabbalah? What is that exactly?
It is the secret sent to Adam from God while Adam slept for him to name creation. You see, we think that the scriptures, if we make do with their primary meaning, only show one of the numerous realities of the world. By studying and meditating on the holy books, man must open all the other doors and bring out all other meanings. That is what the Kabbalah is for.
It seems to me that the Kabbalah was also used for magical operations.
It is true that some people use it for superstitious means, but there is a story in the Zohar that shows that the Kabbalah's greatest power is not magical. Listen. Rabbi Simeon and his son met an angel as big as a mountain who told them that he was going to destroy the world because there were not 30 righteous men in the generation of the time. Simeon replied, "The two of us, my son and I, are enough to protect the world, as it is written. Any word, or dabar in Hebrew, shall be established upon the deposition of 2 witnesses. Now, dabar also means world when written. By the word, or dabar, of God, the heavens were made." At this moment, a heavenly voice sounded out, "Happy may you be, Rabbi Simeon. You who have the power to repeal the decrees of the Holy One, blessed may he be." You see, I like that story very much because it shows how knowledge and Kabbalist manipulation of the language avoided the destruction of all humanity.
What is the Zohar?
It is the Book of Splendors, the most important book of the Kabbalah. Some say it is the work of a single author who died 2.5 centuries ago, the Castilian Moses of Leon. Others believe the Zohar is not an original work, but a collection of sometimes very old Kabbalist works. Wherever truth can be found, the Zohar is considered to be a little like the counterbalance of the Talmud.
What do you mean exactly when you speak of Kabbalist manipulation of the language?
It is said that in paradise, Adam carried the entire Torah on his face. but none of the letters that made up the text were separated. This gigantic word was the great name of the one God. But once the first man had sinned, the letters were mixed up and separated, one after another. By manipulating the language, the Kabbalists try to rebuild the order of the primordial Torah. When they find a fragment of it, or discover a link between two terms that had lost their identity, they can even cancel divine decrees. That is what the story of Rabbi Simeon and his son shows us.
Why is the Zohar against the Talmud?
The largest part of Jewish law is contained in the Torah, but it is accompanied by the rabbinical laws of the Halakha, the Mishnah, which is the record of verbal laws handed down in ancient times, and the Talmud, which is the commentary on these. Talmudists were Pharisees who approached the mysticism and interiority of religious feeling with some mistrust. The Zohar shows slightly less rigid and legalist hopes and thoughts than those expressed by the Talmud.
That is all a little confused.
Perhaps. But you will undoubtedly understand better if I show you a picture to clarify everything. Imagine that Judaism is a mountain. The Talmud is the slope facing the light, where the villagers stand, and the Zohar is the side that remains in the shade and is only visited by those who are not content with the Talmud, those Maimonides calls the lost. But what would the sunny side be without the other side to support it? It would collapse and there would be no mountain. And do you know anyone who likes flat countryside?
Who were the Pharisees?
They were the ruling class of our people when they returned to captivity in Babylon, until Jerusalem was destroyed by the Romans 70 years after the Christian Messiah. The Pharisees did not have a good position in the Gospels because they fought violently against Jesus, whom they took as an agitator.
Excuse my ignorance, but who was the Maimonides?
He was a little like your Saint Thomas of Aquinas. He was actually virtually his contemporary, and like Thomas, Maimonides tried to reconcile rationalism born out of Aristotle's philosophy and the mysticism of faith.
Why were the Hebrews taken to Babylon?
Because of a war of conquest. My people were taken as the spoils of war by King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon in the year 586 BC of the Christian era. The destruction of the first temple dates back to that time. Half a century later, another king, Cyrus, freed us and allowed us to build the temple and even the walls of Jerusalem. But when you see Kalonymus, he will tell you more of this.
Kalonymus, may I interrupt your prayers for a second?
I am listening.
Kalonymus, I found this talit at Hayat's home. I think it a little strange that a man as poor as him should have a shawl of such value in his possession. What do you think?
It is not unusual for poor men to be very pious and prefer to spend the little means they have on religious objects rather than satisfy more mundane needs. But you are right, there is something unusual about this talit. A tiny embroidery of silver thread through these two dark bands. Do you see it?
I showed this shawl to Isaac, and he did not notice this.
A ray of reflected light on the metal thread made me look closer. Otherwise, I would not have seen it either.
What does the inscription say?
It is a name, and probably a date from the Hebrew calendar. Burgos 5252. Talits do not usually contain this sort of text.
Do you usually come here to pray?
Not usually in the way you mean, my child. Let us say that it is above all an act of fervour, hope and remembrance. These remains are the remains of a revolutionary time for my people, the time of our independence, our unity and our strength. We wish that one day the children of Zion will again be reunited in the promised land and will be able to rebuild the Temple of Solomon so they can complete their destiny as the leader of all nations.
Why do you call this place the Wailing Wall?
The Muslims and Christians gave it this name, not the Jews. For us, it is rather the Wall of Hope, because we pray that one day, on this ruined wall, the great temple of our faith shall be rebuilt.
What do you call Zion, Kalonymus?
It is the name of the fortress taken by King David, and that he made his city, Jerusalem. Yerushalayim. It means the city of peace. But in the scriptures, Zion also means all Judea, and even all the people of the house of Israel.
How was David recognized as king by the Hebrews?
Oh, you are right to ask that question. Usually, Christians just know that David was a shepherd who killed a giant with a stone. But for many, the story ends there. And so, listen. At around the time when Homer told the story of the War of Troy, 1,250 years before the birth of Jesus Christ, invaders arrived on the coast of the east, among them brandishing iron swords and driving chariots of war. The Philistines clashed with the Israelites, who, without a leader and almost without arms to defend themselves, suffered heavy losses, until Samuel, a priest of the one God, made Saul king of Israel. And then the battle began to turn. Moab, Edom, and all the other enemy kingdoms of the Hebrews were soon defeated. But because he spared an enemy, and thus disobeyed Yahweh, Saul was abandoned by divine benevolence. Upon his death, David, who had already been crowned with glory for having killed the warrior giant Goliath, succeeded Saul to the throne and asserted the supremacy of the Hebrews over the land of Canaan. David took Jerusalem, and Solomon his son built the first temple where the Ark of the Covenant was kept. But when Solomon died, the land of the Hebrews was divided into two kingdoms, Judea to the south and Israel to the north. And the Hebrew people found division and pain.
You spoke of the first temple. Does that mean there are several?
Two, if tradition is to be believed, the first sanctuary was built by Master Hiram of Tyre, an architect who knew great secrets. The temple housed the Ark of the Covenant, a chest in which the tables of the law were kept, but it was destroyed when the city was taken by the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. That was when the Ark disappeared. The second temple was destroyed by the Romans when they took Jerusalem in 70 of the Christian era.
Thank you, Kalonymus. I shall not forget what you have taught me.
Memory is the sister of truth, Adrian, as surely as forgetting and lying are their evil opposites.
Aleph, Lam, Mim. Thus says the book. It contains no doubt. It is a guide for those who fear God, those who believe in the mystery, those who fulfill their...
May I interrupt your meditation, holy man?
Do not worry about disturbing me. Talking with a friend is one of the most beautiful forms of meditation I know. Oh, it is a great pleasure to see you again.
I know that this is a sajada, a prayer mat, but I would like to know its symbolic value for Muslims.
Oh, the sajada is like a door, but a door that opens onto a specific time, not a place. This time is the time of intimacy with our Creator.
I found this mat at Hayat's house. Can you tell me anything special about it?
Oh, I do not know. You should consult Master Jamal, the head of the Tariqah of carpet makers. But he has left for Hajj with the caravan before last. He shall not be back for some weeks.
You spoke of a tariqah. Is that some sort of brotherhood?
Yes, there are tariqahs for all trades in Islam. But they are more than simple groups of craftsmen. To be a member of a tariqah is to follow the path of a true master of skill, as most of their patriarchs are also Sufis. That is why the Empire helps to develop these brotherhoods.
I understand that Soliman had a great respect for the Sufis. Is there any special reason for that?
Oh, yes. When Selim, the father of Soliman, fought the Mameluke dynasty of Cairo, he rallied the Sufis to his cause. The Sufis were much respected by the people because for a long time they had opposed the Egyptian sultans and their severe and inefficient form of government that was nonetheless supported by Sunni dignitaries. That is how the Sufis became allies of the new political regime. It is an edifying reversal of the situation, no?
As the Sufis now have a similar role to the Sunni orthodoxy in the time of the Mamelukes, who opposes the empire?
That is a difficult question. Let us say that there is no opposition as such, but sources of popular discontent are sometimes voiced by members of the Futuwah.
I do not know what the Futuwah are.
They are a kind of brotherhood of young people with very strict codes of honor. Chivalrous, almost. They can be found in all the large cities of the empire.
What are the sources of popular discontent you talk about?
Oh, well, since the Europeans found shipping routes to go and find spices and silk from India themselves, our cities no longer have the same importance for trade. They're beginning to lose their wealth. But the state does not understand this and continues to ask for more tax. And so young people in the Futuwas are agitated, as they are very sensitive to questions of social justice.
Do you think Hayat was in contact with members of the Futuwah?
It is more than likely. Hayat saw many people, and these groups are in the middle of the people. They're not difficult to find.
I think I may even have met someone who could be one of them. Thank you for sharing a little of your knowledge with me, holy man. It will be of great use to me.
Our knowledge is like a flame that passes from torch to torch, Adrian. Those who give it do not lose it.
Are you prepared to help me, friend?
What can I do for you? Forget another instrument?
No, forge me an answer instead. Did you know the man who was lodging with your neighbor, the widow Pichon?
Hayat. Of course I knew him. He often came to speak with me after his day's work. I liked him. I learned what he did. It surprised me. Are you sure he is the one who kidnapped the governor's daughter?
It would seem so, yes. But you say he worked?
He was a preacher. That was his job. He walked the streets of Jerusalem preaching of love. It did not harm anyone, but the authorities preferred to lock him up. I wanted to go and visit him in prison, but one of the Chamberlain's men told me he had been hidden away. I found that a little strange, but did not insist.
Did Hayat tell you about his life?
Yes, a little. I know he was born in the Jewish community of Burgos before his fellow Jews were expelled. His family sought refuge in Portugal. Then he was sold like a slave to Muslims and bought by Christians. He certainly had an adventurous life.
And one that brought him into close contact with men of all religions, for better or for worse.
Ah! Fire! Fire! The thief has started a fire! 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 Help!
This dwelling certainly attracts covetousness.
It was nothing, just a few flames to put out. I'm used to dealing with fire, nothing to fear.
He were a sprightly one, that man, a force of nature. Oh, he stopped the fire all on his own, so he did.
I found this among the ashes. I do not know if it is of any importance.
Did you come here to burn this manuscript?
None of your business, you damn snoop. You can have me slung in prison, but I won't stay there long. The governor's days are numbered.
I'm sure the governor will be very interested in what you have just insinuated. Let us continue this conversation in his presence.